Oh yeah, in this podcast, you get to sit in on one of my live interior design seminars. I hope you enjoy it. So, let's get ready.
Today's speaker has been involved in the design field for over 33 years and developed his approach very early on based on solid principles that deliver results. His expertise is in residential and commercial design, lighting design, custom furniture design, and all other aspects that relate to interiors. His greatest love is in residential interiors because of their personal nature. He has had his work presented and published in the Baker Furniture Catalog entitled the Macmillan Collection, which was an extensive selection of furniture drawn from the practice of one of America's most prestigious design firms, the over 85-year-old firm of Macmillan Incorporated, New York. He is a personal tailor to his clients by bringing out the best in them and their environments. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the owner and founder of Spectrum Interiors and the author of the forthcoming book, The Magic of Ambiance, How to Bring Your Interior Design Dream to Life, Stephen C. Adamko.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I hope you all are as well. All right, well, here we are for this presentation entitled Creating Ambiance No Matter What the Budget, and truly it is all about the magic and excitement of ambiance. But how many know what ambiance really is? You should look it up in the dictionary. Well, let's check the dictionary right now. Okay, so anyway, we're talking about a mood, character, quality, tone, atmosphere of a environment. Or, this is a good definition, that which surrounds or encompasses. That's a pretty good definition because what we're looking at when we create ambiance, no matter what the budget is, consider this. You have how does it feel if you wrap yourself in a nylon windbreaker, ladies, versus a mink coat? Now, you are the same, correct? But your feeling, your ambiance, the way you talk, the way you walk is different. Is that true? Okay, so you put on a kind of a different demeanor, in a sense, or a more expansive demeanor of yourself. Correct? Okay? All right, that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, I have taken this definition and expanded it a little more. So, and I'm going to read this because it's important not to just ad-lib this, but it's the intangible element of an interior that touches the heart, the soul, the mind, and the emotions that is visually appealing, intellectually stimulating, emotionally satisfying, and tactily enriching for the occupants and others. Now, the magic that creates excitement induces calm, so it can do several things at the same time. It provides a haven and creates a background or backdrop for the occupants and their possessions. So they are the gems in their own setting. So think of photography. You want to have a portrait made of your family, photographer, if they're really good, is going to choose the correct backdrop to really bring out the very best in you. And like jewelry, really, quite frankly, you are the gem, you are the ruby, you are the diamond, and we want to position you in such a way that your setting brings out the whole character, the quality, the fire, the color of your personality. Because you're unique and nobody's like you in the world, correct? Some people say hallelujah, and some people say, ooh, we need more you. Okay, now the next few slides here are slides that I'm going to show that incorporate ambiance. And one thing that I want to make clear up front is that all the photos in this presentation are of a high quality nature. The idea is you want to start at the top. So it doesn't matter what the budget, quite frankly. The same processes work. So, if you say, well, I only have $300. The other person says, I got $3,000. The other person says, I got $300,000. It really doesn't matter, okay? So you want to take the essence, the principles of what's there, and then apply the essence of that to your circumstance, whatever that is, and however much money you have to spend, okay? So we're not going to show something at the low end and then try to creep our way up. We're going to show it like at the high end. So if somebody says, well, I would like to someday be an Olympic skater, do you watch your next door neighbor skate, or somebody who's pretty good, or do you watch somebody like Peggy Fleming? Or you usually watch the best. Same thing for golf. You watch the best so you can emulate that. Okay, that's what it's about. So anyway, when it comes to this, you're going to notice that these photographs have, it's not only the combination of the materials such as warm wood, leather, wool carpet. These are all environments that are conducive to the occupants. So obviously that's where we get this individual approach. So, it's the lighting and everything that factors into how this looks, how it feels, and how supportive it is of the people that it's being designed for and their tastes and leanings. So even when I'm designing, everything is not about providing a look or my look. It's bringing people up to a higher level, and it's also pivoting around the individual themselves. So the client is always the pivot point, the most important point. And we'll go into some of these, how do we make things really happen? Okay, and then we're dealing with rooms that have not only rich texture orchestration, but you have things like the backdrop there that's uplit. So now you're actually making those textures come alive. Let's say we turn off the lights on that backdrop there where that wall is, it would all of a sudden go somewhat flat. Okay, so I just want to get you into the feeling mode of this first off, because that's what we're dealing with, the feeling, the emotions. Also, ambiance can happen in an outdoor setting. So, beautiful cityscape, not every cityscape is this beautiful, but yet you have a very intimate way to incorporate that into a dining scenario from an elevated perch, and now the whole big time world becomes a backdrop for what you're doing. It doesn't have to be just inside, it can be outside too. Other ways is that, ambiance, who doesn't like the cozy, comfortable feeling of being around a pool at or approaching dusk? And so you've got candles, you've got uplights, you've got the textural, sculptural aspect of plants, you've got people, you've got food, again, it's all of that. So you can see I'm trying to get you into the mood. That's important for men and women, isn't it? Get in the mood? Okay. Reminds me of that song. Was it In the Mood? No. That's an old one. Okay. That's an old one. But anyway, still holds true, doesn't it? Okay. And then obviously for, most people think of, let's have a nice intimate dinner, and then you've got lighting and views and other things that factor into that situation. But you can see that each one of these slides have that intangible aspect. They have that something. It's not just a mere look. Okay. And then when you want to close down the day at night, what better way than to be surrounded by luxurious materials, down-filled pillows, wonderful scenery, and a sense of a cocoon. And then I think this is one of the last ones before we get into some of the other details. Here we have a very open space, very clean line, again, orchestrated so that we have a sunset view on the west. But look at the way the lighting is portrayed and the uplighting and the different ways that it's utilized with the plants, and it creates its own artwork on the ceiling. Okay, now just if that were all turned off, it'd just be one flat ceiling. And so, as you move things around and as the environmental context changes outside, the whole lighting scenario changes too. Okay, and I guess I have one more slide. Everybody likes dining, don't they? That's always part of a nice aspect to living and enjoying other people, usually. And round tables are very conducive for that, by the way. This happens to be a former apartment for Mary Tyler Moore. And obviously it's got some luxurious wall coverings, gold leaf ceilings, a crystal chandelier, elegant exotic veneer on the doors and the door casings and all that. So it's probably way better than some restaurants would have. Would you agree? Well, why not have a place where you can call your own? You can go to travel to a lot of different places. You can go restaurants to a lot of different places. But why not at least captivate at least that level and even beyond in your own environment? That's the only place that you really have to control for the most part. Okay, so why is ambiance so important? And I'll be just quite frank with you. Without ambiance, you end up with just basically a look. And a look, to me, doesn't really incorporate the depth of your personality and character and other things of that nature. It's rather superficial, if I can say it that way. And it doesn't I think, express the true treasure that's in an individual. Because how many people, when they're young and have big dreams, big aspirations about things, and then how does that change over time when people become adults? Isn't it true that anybody have kids here? Okay, little kids have big dreams, and then I could say that big kids have little dreams, typically speaking, right? Unless you've got somebody like Michael Dell or Bill Gates. But typically, we don't. Okay, so why do so few people have ambiance? And can you still hear me good in the back? Are you okay? Good. All right. Number one is they try to follow a trend or a fad. Now, those things come and go. So it's very easy to get locked into, after a time, get locked into a time warp. Okay? A time capsule. And so it can get outdated to a certain point. And quite frankly, a lot of things that are perpetuated out there in the industry and the furniture, or even in fashion and clothing, the idea for the constant change is to keep up the selling. Nothing wrong with that, but it's to make you in a continual state of dissatisfaction. But everybody knows that there are certain things, colors that you look best in, certain cuts of clothing that you look best in. And if that doesn't happen to be the fad, then where are you? Okay, I think there's enough diversity out there in the world today that it really doesn't matter. And when one can look outside and see the beauty of nature, and it goes in seasons, summer, winter, fall, spring. But is there a fad for this color, or that red rose is in this year and 5 years it's really not in? Isn't it interesting to kind of contemplate that? Okay, or people try to take what they've seen in magazines, and without really a full understanding of how does this mesh with my personality? How does this mesh with where I live geographically? How does this mesh with my architecture, the type of home that I have? So kind of knowing yourself is an important step. And that brings up the next point. People don't take the time to really understand who they are. Or they listen to other people, friends, family, neighbors, who really do not have a vested interest. They have an opinion, but, unless they're paying for it, how much credence do you want to give to it? Or how much do they really know, on a level of 1 to 10? And do they really understand the process of design? And there is a process to design, just like there's a process to a doctor. You go to a doctor, he has a process for asking you the right questions and finding out about your taking tests. There's a process an attorney goes through to do the proper discovery work in order to represent you correctly. Sherlock Holmes had a process. If he didn't, he would not end up with a good result. Okay, how do we start the process? Well, we want to ask the right questions to get the right answers, to get the right results. Now, what would happen if we ask the wrong question? We get a wrong answer, and we get a wrong result. So it's knowing exactly what to ask. And I've got a couple things here that I usually incorporate with, and it goes really much deeper than this, quite frankly. Like, what do you want? Really? What do you want with this environment? Where do you want to go? How do you want to be perceived in your environment? How do you want others to perceive you in your environment? Because remember, if you think about the gem in your setting, you're not only looking out at your environment, but people are looking at you inside your environment. Okay? So it really isn't the same thing as you take a gem or a diamond and you can put it in all different types of settings, and some will really enhance the fire and the clarity and the presence of it. And people will notice, and other settings they'll be okay, but it won't always bring out the full flower. And then one of my favorite questions, this is a great one. How do you want to feel? And I will tell you, when I ask that question, women or men, it almost does not matter. Sometimes the men will change it just a little bit. But the typical thing is, I want to be cozy and comfortable. Correct? Cozy and comfortable. How come it's always cozy and comfortable? Well, I've never found anybody who doesn't want something that's got a comfort level to it, right? But then, how is it that with so many different personalities, we try to define what it is we want with the same two words? Again, they are important in the whole scenario, but now we have to say, what does that really mean to you? How do you spell comfort and cozy? What kind of materials, what kind of combinations, what kind of spaces will bring this about? Okay, and so this is very much like cooking or writing music. If a chef says, I've got to come up with a new dish. them if they said, well, I want it to be, kind of ethnic. I want it to be kind of maybe just mildly spicy. I want it to have a full-bodied flavor. I want enough there that it's a wonderful treat for the palate. And he's going to try to determine in advance what it is so that he can put the ingredients together that hits it right where he wants it, right? He doesn't want to say, well, I want something kind of spicy and whatnot, and then it ends up being too sweet. He missed the mark greatly, right? You think, does he really know what he's doing? Does he really know how to handle his ingredients? Okay. Then we get into what I call a project statement or a lifestyle statement, or for those business owners, very much akin to a mission statement. So this is so key. It's really, people can bring pictures and things of that, and that's all good because they are touch points to what we can incorporate. But the idea is those are always different environmental contexts, different architectural features and things of that nature. And even though they can be incorporated, it's still going to be a different compositional situation. So the words are containers for feelings and thoughts and emotions. It helps you to get down or dig down deeper into the treasure that's within, okay? Or, define the unique you. And I keep always impressing on people, that we want to do something that's uniquely yours, not somebody else's. I mean, if it's kind of like, I'm a personal tailor, and so we don't want necessarily an off the rack. Maybe we do take something off the rack, but we modify it and tailor it so that it fits you, it's formed, it's shaped, the fabric drapes correctly, and you look fantastic. Isn't that what most women want? Okay? It's this discovery process that we want to get deeper, get thinking deeper, get better results. And then the analogy too about the greeting card, like Hallmark. You want to buy a card for somebody, a husband, wife, or your sweetheart, or whatever, and you might pick the card because of the photograph, or it might be something funny. But really, what is it that you're after? You're after really mostly for the words in the card, right? You can say, well, I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to express what I feel. But let me look for somebody who already has the words and can express how I feel. So when I see it, I can say, okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's an important aspect. Okay, what does it do for you, this project statement? Well, it acts as a guidepost, a plumb bob, a level, a straight edge. It helps to keep you on course. It totally eliminates the fluff in design because there are a plethora of things out there to choose from. I mean, it's mind-boggling now, all the different things you can get in terms of color and for almost anything. And so how do you ferret out what it is when you're given so many things to choose from? I mean, with music, you have 7 notes. But that 7 notes is characterized differently in different chords, different melodies. And out of those 7 notes comes what? Thousands and thousands of songs that have been written over the years and even over the centuries. And what makes one song a hit, or what makes one song just, stand the test of time? It's how it's been orchestrated, right? So that's a big word. Plus, it not only does it hold the course, but also helps keep you excited, so that you can enjoy the journey from where you are right now to where you ultimately want to be. Because so many people, they start out, or maybe they don't have it defined very well, and then they're taking the trip just like from here to New York, and all of a sudden and pretty soon they're what? 5-10 miles off course without a GPS. They're saying, this doesn't look like New York. Or like Dorothy said, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. It's a totally different thing. Okay, and the importance of a master plan. Well, obviously, your time and money are 2 of the things that are almost inseparable. And so your time, your money, your resources are able to be allocated properly, because it doesn't really matter how much money you have or how little money you have. If somebody says, I've got, $1,000 to spend, well, that's a lot of money to them. And if somebody says, well, I got $100,000 to spend, that's a lot of money for them, okay? And even if it's $1 million for a multimillionaire, it's still a significant amount of money to spend. And so, do we want to spend the money, or do we really want to invest the money? You invest the money because you want a return on your investment, in more ways than one. Again, back to the emotional, the intellectual, the visual, and all that. And so also it helps you to orchestrate all the components, whether you're working in a room, so you have to orchestrate all the different furniture pieces, or you're working in a house where you need to transition into different areas and have some relatedness. That all helps you to do that. And so when I talk about the words, we're talking about intangible things first, because the intangible almost always precedes the tangible. Somebody has an idea, a concept, and then eventually, voila, we now have a reality. Because it used to be a dream about going to the moon and rocket ships and things like that. Now we almost fly there almost daily. And then the other thing is important to have it on paper, because without having it documented, you can't look at it, you can't ponder it, you can't meditate on it. And it's part of what gets you excited. Okay. Is everybody getting something out of this so far? Is that making some understanding? Because I've got to create the foundation first, and then you can see some of the other things that happen. Because we're going to get into a bunch of slides here momentarily. And then realize that what you're working with, whether it's in the house you have right now, whether it's in the house you plan to build, you're always working with in the context of architecture. So you have architecture, you have interior design, and they are and should act as a hand in glove scenario. What is architecture composed of? Floors, walls, and ceilings. Okay, and so it depends on what type of material they're made of. But somebody said that the key to better living is planning, and it just reminds me of this comment. You probably heard it before. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Correct? Okay. And then a common mistake is that people don't really understand, and it's good. I mean, we're in the library here, filled with information. Books back there on architecture and other things. Of course, you got to watch what you read, and it's okay that, there's different levels like decorating and designing. But when you get into design, you're getting at a higher level of what I call orchestration. We're not talking about, for music, like Mary, Mary Had a Little Lamb. We're talking about something much more emphatic, much more involved, or even into Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. That's a few minutes long, isn't it? Okay, that's not like 3 minutes like your typical popular song, but why is it we go there year after year after year to hear the same thing? There's got to be something that moves you. Okay. Being aware of your surroundings is another important thing. And what I hope that you can pull from this is that you will walk out of here today realizing that I have a different paradigm and a different filter to look at my world and other things, and be more able to be discerning, to be able to pick out some of the things that are the motivating factors that make things happen. Okay, now just a quick note, because I can't get totally into furniture and furniture space plan, because that is a whole different deal in and of itself. But let me just say, it's really more fun to be individualistic and to have a piece of furniture that really express the uniqueness of you. And I'm sorry, but I want to kind of hammer on that, because I think that's so important. I think that's where a lot of people miss it. Now, there's nothing wrong with sets of furniture, suites of furniture, and things of that nature. But by and large, I'll tell you that furniture, just like fashion, if they can get you to buy a bed and a dresser and an armoire and a nightstand, so they all match, obviously you can sell more, right? But then, if people want to make that unique, okay, they've got all this stuff looking with almost the same facade. It's just like you with different facial expressions. I'm happy, I'm sad. I mean, I'm funny, I'm this, whatever. I mean, all different facial expressions you would have. That's basically what a suite of furniture does. It's the same face in different expressions, right? Armoire, dresser. Then, in order to get it unique, now they're having to focus on bedspreads, pillows, coverings, windows, lighting, and artwork. But the basic movers, and let's just take it out of architectural context for a minute, those are some of the largest pieces of furniture. They kind of are somewhat dominating, would you agree? And so therefore, you don't really get the full-bodied aspect of it. And this goes into what some would call eclectic. And eclectic is really a masterful orchestration of different elements, right? Just like writing a symphony, all different notes, different chords, different changes. It is not everything I like all thrown together. Try that in the kitchen. Okay? Think of some combinations that just don't go together. Think of the back of fashion magazines where they have different fashion contexts, but they hide people's faces because of fashion no-no. think of, would you take your most favorite wool sweater and then put it on top of your silk dress? Would you? Okay, so it's all these things working together. It's mass, it's shape, it's form, it's contrasting of horizontal, vertical elements of and things of light. Does everybody track with me okay? I hope I'm not talking over anybody's head. Everybody's okay? All right, very good. Okay. All right, now the most important part, quite frankly, is working with the floor plans. This is where it happens. Really, I don't care if I've talked to people that are just getting ready to buy their first home. Okay, young people. And so, do they always have a lot of money to spend? Probably not. But it doesn't matter what the house looks like. That floor plan has got to work for you. And that's where the understanding of how do I live, what kind of furniture do I have, what kind of furniture am I going to have in the future, am I going to have kids in the future, am I going to do entertaining in the future, do I going to do entertaining now? How many people do I like to have over? Do I enjoy the views, things like that. That all factors into that. So that really shapes your life, quite frankly. It's kind of like, think of it like trying on different shoes. I mean, you have the length of the shoe, the size, the width, the cut of the shoe. You just got to fit your foot right, or you're not going to be comfortable, right? Same thing here. Okay, so doing the drawings is a secret, and obviously, it's best to sketch in things on architecture that's drawn already to scale. So if you just try to sketch, if you're not good at that, then you're going to put in different sizes. You think they fit, and you think, oh my gosh, I can have 20 chairs in here, realizing it's really only 5 when you get to the scale. But anyway, a lot of times people use cutouts of furniture and then move them around. That's okay to do that if it's a reflection of what you have right now that you are using. But let's just say you have furniture that you want to use. Okay, use the cutouts. But then you say, well, but I don't want the same tables. I want a different cocktail table. I want different end tables. I want different occasional tables. That's where you can start to be a little more creative if you want to. So I'm just saying that on a very basic level. Okay, now when we get into how architecture affects things, these are going to be 2 rooms the same size, 18 by 26. Now, the way the doors and windows are placed and their size has a great deal to do with if something works or not. Okay, so we walk into this and we're actually looking at it down the full length of the room, the 26 dimension, plus our line of vision is also out this large window, so you get a vast depth perspective. Your eye is not stopped short, okay? Now, consider this. It's the same room, but now we're coming into it looking across the short side, and yes, we are seeing a fireplace, but then as we look out through the windows, they become, in a sense, more like peepholes. Consider your car. I mean, you can look at it straight on with a certain window, but when you're in the driver's seat and you look back, all of a sudden that window is really scoped down. Sometimes it's a blind spot, right? Okay, same thing here. So we're talking about your line of sight and view, your angle of views. So even though this can create a more intimate space, it's still going to work for one person real well and maybe another person not so well. Okay, same room, different results. All these arrows are showing you where the entry points are, entry and exit points. So let's just say that somebody does a lot of entertaining with a lot of people and they love it. They love big conversational groups. Something like this might work real well because, why? Because there isn't traffic going right through the conversational space. And I'm just going to give a couple different scenarios. And let's say somebody that has this kind of situation says, well, that will work out good for me because, yes, I do have conversational groups, but they're smaller. I have, I like to do some game table. And also, I'm a very avid reader, so I've got things. Okay, so that will work out real well for me. Now, this might work for that person too, but again, this would. And this same thing, it starts to subdivide the space into different components. Realize that people use a space and you have to draw in traffic patterns just like a town has traffic patterns. It subdivides a space, and sometimes if it's not subdivided quite right, because most people take the direct route, right? From point A to point B, they don't go the corner, they'll cut across the corner of a lawn. And then if the traffic pattern isn't quite right, then we have to create detours with the furniture itself and how that's planned. But you can see that this plan, let's say same size room, this plan does not work for a person who has this kind of a need. So I've seen this many times before, that you can have a house, with a lot of square footage, and because of how things are placed, or fireplace, or stairwells, and things like that, by the time you space plan it, it ends up to be what I would call a glorified apartment. maybe it's 4,000 square feet. And then you end up with an effective use of 1,500 square feet. Now, is that really a good investment in a house? If that's all you can use by the time it's done? I mean, it might look pretty when it's empty. So you can see architecture is a big shaper of what you do with your furniture and how it affects your life. So that's why I'm a designer. I think of things architecturally and interior design well at the same time. Because to do it just with interiors only and not being versed in architecture, well, you're going to make some mistakes there for some people. And sometimes walls have to be moved, or maybe something has to be changed to accommodate a piece of furniture that makes the room balance better. This is in a large room. And obviously, after all the space planning is done, you can see that it accommodates a lot of different activities.
One room?
That's all one room. Okay. And, when I space plan, this happens to accommodate a lot of different situations. And yet, I have to be very cognizant of the architecture here. Okay. So, and then sometimes you want to see how everything matches up together and looks. Here's a perspective. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm kind of slicing through here, removing the bottom half, and so you can look at just this top half, okay, with the next drawing. Okay, see how that works out? So now, what looks as, okay, let's say a folding screen here. Well, we don't know how high that is, and we don't know how big the base has to be to make an impact. Well, now you can see, there's a base, there's a folding screen. Then we have to have artwork that's masked enough, for this is a very large room with lots of architectural detail. Okay, now, to go a little further, we start with floor plans, and this is really a little powder room / toilet chamber, I guess you could say. Okay, so it starts with a floor plan. It's not really a big room. And then maybe a drawing of it, maybe some elevation. So if you're coming in the door, that's what you're looking at if you slice it across the middle. Okay, there's a toilet chamber, there's a wall, there's 2 windows, column, bench. Same thing if you're going back out the door. There's the entry door. There's where the toilet is in this own little chamber, and then, a console. So that the concept is there. Plus a little mission statement about what do we want to do, plus how we're going to flesh this out with the materials and the furniture. Okay, this is concept. This is intangible to a certain degree. Okay, now it turns into reality. Okay, so even though it's a small room, it has great depth perspective with a mirrored arch there. We've changed everything out from the wall covering to put fabric wall coverings in, painted the ceiling black, came in with par 36 lamps that are very controlled and precise. Designed custom benches and materials of full lizard, protea, custom window treatments. That's custom, that's custom, that's custom. And oh, by the way, there's a reason why we covered the windows so you can't open them or look out, because it totally controls the environmental context. It's meant to be kind of a harkening back of Egyptian, Persian times where it was luxury. Think Cleopatra. Okay, that's what it's meant to come about. Okay, custom bench. And you can see little nuances like in the protea. You can see the color changes from the tips very white to mid-tone to dark. We've done the same thing with the custom window coverings. So it's all about nuance. Okay, and then the nuance of the geological specimens, hand-blown glass vase, inlaid boxes, special lighting that's pinpoint spot so it looks like light is emanating out of that geological specimen over a 500-year-old watercolor. Okay. Go too fast? Everybody's keeping up with me? Okay. The importance of proper backdrop. As I said before, we're dealing with fundamentally architecture, walls, floors, and ceilings. But each one has a different tone. Like you go in there and just take the floor. It can be marble, it can be slate, it can be carpet, it can be Oriental carpet, walls can be paint, wall covering, fabric, murals, faux finish, and for the most part, you can do the same kind of thing with ceilings as you can with the walls. Okay, but it's orchestrating these backdrops if you can. Sometimes people would say, well, I can't do anything. I live in an apartment. I can't do anything with the walls or my carpet. And there we start to deal with different other aspects like furniture or sub-backdrops that we can control. They don't happen to address the architecture. So what we're going to do here is we're going to enhance everything. We're talking about backgrounds and we're talking about foregrounds. So think of it just like a photographer. We're changing things out to make you and your things look their best and be perceived in their best light. So it's all there to enhance the form, shape, color, proportion, texture of everything that's there. Oh, one thing too. In a room, you have some things that your wall is definitively the backdrop for, like a piece of furniture, a large piece of furniture, secretary, a piece of artwork. And then you have other things like cocktail table, that the floor or the rug is the backdrop. But then you have other pieces like a piece of furniture sofa up against the wall. Well, now your wall and your floor are the backdrops for that piece. So consider that your line of view is out this way, your cone of vision. But your cone of vision also up and down like that too. And when you tilt your head and you move, you want to consider that. Okay. And this works right into the thing you hear a lot about, focal points. You got to have a focal point. I understand the point to a degree, but I'd rather concern myself and get you to thinking of focal views instead of points. Okay, consider yourself with a handy cam, a cam recorder. You're looking through the lens and you're always seeing things framed in a rectangle, right? So as you move or you pan, you want to consider compositional relationships in that. And so what you want is to see that happening throughout the room, because the room has to be balanced. And consider a teeter-totter, 2 equal weights on a teeter-totter, or a heavyweight and a lightweight, but you've got to shift where it is on that fulcrum point. Now spin that around, and that's kind of like your room. And then spin it this way, and now what you end up having is, everybody know what a gyroscope is? Okay, no matter which way you turn and shape that, it's always in balance, right? All the time. That's what we're after. We're after all of that. So when you go to a restaurant, you use Bassimeter D, give me a good point. I want a focal point to sit at. I mean, it could be, but you're going to say, well, give me the best view you got in the house. All right. And so what we're doing is trying to promote all this, orchestrated, environmental, all-inclusive, wraparound, surround environment, kind of like surround sound. And it's just like, the hierarchy in music or in the movies. When people say focal point, all of a sudden they put a lot of emphasis on this. The focal point's the fireplace. Well, that could be a very important element in there, but there could be a secretary, some other sculpture, painting, other things that could be important in there too. So if the furniture could talk, if you would say, okay, the fireplace is the focal point, and we're dealing with architecture, surround. If we say you're dealing with a focal point, and if the furniture could talk, and they thought that the fireplace was the focal point, all the furniture would bow down. Oh, mighty fireplace, you're the one. Oh, you're so hot. But, does it really work that way? Like Michael Jordan, he's a hot basketball player too. But can he go step on the court without everybody else? Is everybody else kind of non-consequence? He says, hey, I can handle it, guys. I don't need you. All like Gone with the Wind. You've got major characters, but you have the sub-characters, you have the backdrop, you have the environmental setting that it takes place in. It's all of that for it to make it work. Okay, we're talking about hierarchy here. So for planning purposes, we subdivide things. You can see the main areas and what they constitute, the secondaries, the minor and the small areas, and the accents. So we have to consider all of this. So it's just like writing a book. It's subdivided into chapters, and then those chapters into paragraphs, and those paragraphs into statements and concepts and phrases. And then it's, well, do I use a period here, a semicolon, colon, a comma, question mark, or an exclamation mark? But they're all tools, right? Otherwise, if you hand the paper in and it's not right, somebody's going to hand it back to you all marked up and with red circles and things like that, and it's called editing, right? And so sometimes people need somebody to come in and help them edit, to say it without mumbling. In a lot of rooms out there, they mumble. They don't talk clear. They don't have enough clarity. Ask any attorney if you need the representation. Would you rather have them mumble or talk with clarity and cohesion and well-constructed concepts delivered for ultimate effect so that you can win? All right? Okay. I'm going to move along fast here. These are different ideas. I'm just going to say just a little bit on this one for a minute. Hard surface foresight, marble. Okay. Taking the concept of, somebody could say, well, what's a focal point here? Somebody might walk in here and say, the view is the focal point. Somebody might come in here and say, the fireplace is the focal point. Another person could say, no, it's the piano that's a focal point. But let's say you didn't know that this was a concert pianist. What's the focal point for him? The piano. What happens happens if it's foggy out there? What's a focal point? You see, everything can shift and change. Okay, another marble floor instead of black is white. But then again, somebody could say, immediately say, well, the fireplace is always a focal point. Well, maybe it's that piece of artwork because that's $250,000 piece of art, where that marble fireplace is only $50,000. Okay, parquet floors, and you're always looking at all kinds of shape and form and line. How to contrast different things with the curvilinear aspect. Herringbone, and then we're bringing wood up on the walls, and then metallic draperies, metallic pillows, and punctuated with flowers, and there's all kinds of little textural, dimensional, transitional things, because it's not just A, C. There's always transitional areas, and just like in writing, you have transitional phrasing, right, to move from one thought to another and do it in a smooth instead of a choppy way. And then, we have pattern on the floor and wool. There's a different sensation of walking on marble, walking on wool carpet, walking on nylon carpet, walking on real wood, walking on pergo. Different sound, different almost sensation. And in each one of these are going to be portrayed in different lights. And then textural floor coverings that create a very unique, or maybe even an oriental or something that's more tactile, more chic, but more casual. Okay. And then wall-to-wall carpeting, obviously one of the benefits of that is that you have extra sound absorption capabilities in there. And it just, each one of these denotes a level of richness. So before I forget, when I say richness, that can be for anything. That can be for something very casual and rustic, or up to the ultra sophisticated. But what I'm talking about when I say richness is how they're all orchestrated together, the depth, the clarity, the emotion projected. So the room is more alive and engages you versus a room that's flat and says nothing. Okay? Okay, walls, plain. Okay, let's start out with that and then we'll move on up. There's a good reason for some of this. This particular apartment right here was for Ralph Lauren. Why does he have something so relatively plain and only punctuated with a few things? Because he lives in a world saturated with color and pattern. So he has to have some reprieve at some point in time, some balance in his life as well too. Okay, and then we move it on up with moldings. So now we start to architecturally delineate the walls and the demarcation between the walls and the ceilings and the walls and the floors. And then we move it on up another step with sculptural, dental moldings and things like that, and sculpture. So we're putting it up a little bit higher, more of a salon, more of a place for large groups, more of a place for almost a concert hall experience. In some cases, you need a room like this because you need the volume for music too. Small rooms sometimes don't resonate the same way. And that's why, again, the material uses have a lot to do with the acoustical properties of things too. So that's another thing sometimes that people don't always take into account. How many of you seen on Hollywood TV shows and stuff like this, like Cribs or something like that, and there's this huge house, and it's all hard surfaces, and they come down the stairway and everything echoes? There are things that can be done to create a more acoustically tuned space. And so you missed that. Okay, dark lacquer walls that have a mirror connotation. Again, it's kind of somewhat, you might say, woodsy. It's got an English garden kind of feel, and it characterizes things. Wood paneling. Actually, wood paneling most people think is warm, but actually it is that. But it's even more because the first precursor of wood was to create insulation in old homes. It was much warmer than stone. And then a characterization difference here is that we take it from what could be maybe somewhat of a masculine space, and we're using the same material and creating a feminine space because now we're using line differently. We use the curved line, Louis XV, floral type carvings, curved doors, so it changes it out. And then instead of the wood paneling, now we've got wood veneer, but set in a very contemporary tone. And this happens to be exotic book match veneer. And then textured wall covering. This piece of artwork, this oil, could look very nice on a regular wall, correct? But doesn't it look better on a wall that's textured because doesn't your eye just the texture kind of carries right into the grassy field and into the foliage beyond. And so what does it do? It engages you more completely, correct? Texture is engaging. Okay, and exotic wall coverings. By the way, sometimes you have a big room and you like to dine a lot. You can have a big table, or you can have smaller tables that are round. These are very congenial shapes. It's a lot easier to talk between 6 and 8 people, right, instead of 14. And then you never have to kind of crank your neck to the left and the right as much. So it's just another thing to consider sometimes. Also, wall coverings is fabric, mohair. Victorian houses, some of them have silk damask upholstered on the wall. So you have this batten stretched across battens. There's insulation behind that. It's a totally different feeling. Pattern wall coverings, depending on the scale and the size and what it's incorporated, sometimes you have to think just carefully about this type of background as you do any picture or piece of artwork that you choose, because it will define the character of the space and what you can do with it. Murals. They definitely can be a factor that changes the complexion of a room. And even here, this is Winterthur Museum, Henry DuPont. This is in Delaware. And these are all classic American furniture pieces. Each person is going to look at something different and say, well, that's not for me. Well, but there's clues and there's things that can be learned from it regardless that you can apply to your own situation. But what would that room be without that mural? Just say it's plain painted. What would it be? Back in Versailles, the Hall of Mirrors and the French architecture there, Pierre and Fontaine, when they designed something, they designed everything. Floors, walls, ceilings, everything as a harmonious whole, kind of like a gyroscope, down to the furniture, down to the silverware, down to every little detail for the king and the queen. Really interesting, isn't it? So again, you're thinking of like sculpture. Okay, ceilings can be plain, and then of course with this situation we've got special lighting that's on different tracks, so that does add a little bit of unique characterization to the space. Then we start to get in with different terracing aspects and molded ceilings to add some more dimension. Exposed beams, a different version of exposed beams in a very warm, intimate reading room. I guess a lot of people like to read, wouldn't mind having a place like this. Okay, cove ceilings, give you a sensation of Hollywood. Okay, but then obviously it has to have the lighting to go with it so you can perceive that well. Cove ceilings, a room like this, would you call that a focal point or a focal view? Or a focal view. Anyway, I'm trying to retrain you just a little bit. Ornamented ceilings, slope settings. Anybody know what FLW stands for? Right, right. And wood ceilings. Okay, and then open truss ceilings, very apropos for a nice cozy country abode like this. And then ornate ceilings. Now we're looking at the depth and character of wall paint. Instead of being flat, we've got paneled. Plus then we have the curvilinear elements of the plaster ceilings and how that rolls into other things, like rolled arm pleated sofas and just the softened forms of things. And we don't want to get into this matchy thing. We want to get into this orchestral aspect where we have ebb and flow and things change and move. Just like flowers, they change their color from the base of the petal to the edge of the petal. They're just not flat, same color, red. Otherwise it'd just be back to the days when a fake flower was plastic versus the silk ones. Now the silks are so real you can tell, is that real or is that, Okay, coffer ceilings, harken back to the Roman times. It's also somewhat repeated in the floor. Again, different dimensional, neoclassic. Now, here's a nice room. If you didn't have that ceiling terrace like it is, sculpt step terrace like that with that deep center portion, it would be as well. This kind of reminds me of the contemporary inside environment. It reminds me of, anybody been to Chicago, the Roby House? Frank Lloyd Wright? Does it kind of remind you of that? Okay? But it's a different twist on it. But very well done. Silverleaf, okay? Reflective capabilities. Plus, the added benefit of dimension with mirroring on the walls. So you get different reflectivity. And then here's one where all the ceiling's done. And then we have ambient lighting that's uplighting that's also gently reflected back down into the space. Again, that's part of the thing that keeps things kind of, can I use the word cozy and comfortable? And then things put on dimmers. So you have optimal range of control. Gold leaf. And then when I talk to you about, you have a large space, or let's say you're in an apartment, you want to control something, you want to create some sort of backdrop, but they say, well, you can't do anything with the walls. Well, then, a screen or a backdrop or a fabric backdrop now becomes something you can control and change out the backdrop so that what's in front of it, you change the perception of it. Okay. How you see things and how they look for maximum benefit. How others see you. And then everybody knows what a rheostat is, right? Okay, so let's just think of a rheostat we apply it to every one of these little situations, like contrast level. We dial it up, we dial it down. Maximum contrast level is black letters on a white page. And then, gray letters on a white page. And then white on white. Or maybe it's glossy letters white on a matte white background. You can still probably read it because of how the light reflects, but still it's the lowest contrast level. And then the richness level you desire. That's why it's so important to deal with words. So how you want to perceive, how you want to project yourself, because you're going to have a big role to play in that. Sub backdrops, again, screens, again, this bed could have a piece of artwork over it. But yeah, we've changed the whole characterization of it by putting something large so that we're changing how it's being perceived. Another situation here, and if you look real close, remember that coffered ceiling with the floor that kind of mirrors that? That's that one right there. And then you come into this room. Now, some people say, well, that's really open. Todd, that's really not me. Well, it could totally reflect the people that live there. They could be well-traveled. They understand the complexity of things. They travel to Rome, Greece, other places where it's layer upon layer, like a rich lasagna. We're not talking about Chef Boyardee here. We're talking about everything rich, silk, upholstery, and luxurious furnishings and things of that nature. And then mirrored screens or backdrops, chrome beds, that basically reflect a lot of the incoming light. There's a lot of things you can do to change things. And this is just a nice form composition in terms of shape, form, proportion, colors, how it moves in with that screen. And there's a lot of different cultural references here. This is not all Oriental furniture. It's English and leather and velvet and other things like that. But it's kind of a neat orchestration. And then also things like wool carpets, silk bedspread, satin sheets, nice carved furniture, leather, tapestries, all working together. Okay, so all about that was about texture. Since it's the greatest modifier of formality and informality and everything in between, again, think of rheostat again. Most people think in terms of color and pattern only. And then they miss the texture. So the result is it ends up rather flat. Okay? Now that gets right back to just a look. So texture engages people. And, really that adds a sense of liveliness and vitality when you have an orchestrated texture in your environment. So, and then of course, obviously lighting has a lot to do with that, because I could have a very, like that stone wall. I could light it with a light right next to it and graze it, come straight down on it and really pop it. Or I can come back here further with a light and hit it more at a flat angle, and I'll go flatten that out. Because why? Because there's not that highlight and texture in the shadow. And that's why, certain people, you don't want to light up people with direct light coming down on their face because of the shadowing that comes on their face. And if you ever look at how sculpture is lit in museums, they want to direct the light from the right angles to maximize the whole sculptural walk-around experience that you have. And also, if I can say it this way, it's the most sensual aspect. And when I say sensual, I'm talking in a broad context. People are tactily oriented anyway. Did you notice that last line on there? You ever wonder what that could be with that little smiley face there? They're kind of like intrigued. Sure. Okay, want me to pop it? Textural orchestration. How many young kids? Okay, a newborn baby, let's say. Everybody's saying, let me hold him, let me hold her. I like to say it this way, baby skin. Rub an arm, rub a leg. I mean, do you ever watch ladies sometimes they're continually rubbing. Do they ever say I've had enough of that? Really? Does that ever happen? For some people, I guess if they're not kid friendly, I suppose they're that, okay, you can have them. Or they get dirty diapers or something. But anyway, that's part of what is important about engaging the individual. Again, the lighting and everything that was done to create this walk-in environment. Also, look at how this is orchestrated. You've got the texture, the sculpture of this plant in a somewhat minuscule version. It's kind of repeated along through here. Bamboo poles and stuff like that, and the tufting of the bench and the ornamentation here. But it's kind of a neat scenario to have people over. And then rusticated beams, more old rusticated type of furniture here, forms that fit within, kind of like a hand in glove. I mean, a square bench wouldn't work very well there, would it? It'd be kind of jarring. And then linens and things like that, and textures that they give a nice, again, cozy for whatever individual that might appeal to. And more of a Floridian room, slip covers. There's so many things that you can do. Whether it's slip covers, of course, you've got rattan, you've got baskets, foliage, and things like that. And let me make a point here, too. It doesn't always have to take a lot of money to create a very unique, distinctive look. What it takes is looking in, again, asking the right questions and getting the right answers. Because, quite frankly, I'd rather have somebody, if they say they just have a good sofa, but we need some lamp tables and things. Sometimes we can create something that's just a base that's made out of plywood, just the right height, right width, the right length. And then maybe we put a formica top on it, a lay on top, or maybe we put a marble top on it. And then we do some fabric panels, or maybe they're straight, maybe they're sculptured. There's a lot of different ways you can do that, but if you start dealing in the shape, form, proportion, texture, scale, get that right, then everything else is okay to this degree. If it is ill proportioned, does it matter if it's gold leaf? It could just be an ugly gold leaf thing that costs $5,000. Or it could be a wonderfully proportion that's just painted and looks wow. That's pretty cool. But you can see the difference. You always start with the shape of things and the form and the proportion. And then you can put on whatever, if you want to gild it, if you want to gold leaf it, if you want it to be marble, whatever. Say whatever covering that goes onto it. But you have to still start with the basics, right? I mean, most everything in life starts with basics, right? Whether it's food, whether it's music, anything. Golf. Oh, I've got to say this about the golf. Anybody golf here? Oh, I've got a few golfers. Okay. Now maybe I'll save that till the other part. I'm going to save it till later. You remind me, okay? Because I don't want to forget. Okay. Lighting. Again, proper lighting reveals depth, richness of color, controls ambiance in a very, very significant way. And color is how you light it. How many people have gone to a furniture store or let's say a carpet store, take your materials over there, your upholstery, select carpet, bring it back home and check and said, it ain't working. Because of the fluorescent lighting over there versus incandescent that you have, which is yellow base there, or the different array of spectral qualities that happen with sunlight as it comes in sunset to midday to sunset. And so it's always best to check in the light that you're going to be ultimately viewing things in. As a matter of fact, some lighting sources will actually take a red apple and turn it gray. I mean, totally change it. So color is not in the object itself at all. It is how you light it, and it's the way the material absorbs certain colors of the spectrum and bounces the rest back to you. And what's bounced back to you is what you see. Interesting. Did anybody know that before? Okay. And also, let's be clear, it's not the fixtures that do the work. It's what we call, in the profession, we call a ball a lamp. Whether it's an A-ball like Edison designed, or whether it's a small little MR16 that's a mirror reflected, that has a color balance to it. And, obviously you want balanced color if you're going to light a jewelry store, right? Because you want that diamond to have the full fire. And then in terms of backdrop, what's better? A diamond on black velvet or brown burlap? You ever gone into that? And, well, this is a country jewelry store. We just put them on burlap. Can't afford that velvet stuff. Okay. And it's about photometrics. It's about every lamp. I mean, I could have MR16s here that are spot wattage, different beam spread, all of that. So it's another whole toolbox. It's like a mechanic who's he has this, but he's got a special toolbox over here. It's another toolbox to make your environment come alive. Okay, and now we're going to see different lighting. Those MR16s, basically, they're that small, but they're pretty powerful. Get the right wattage with the right punch, because lighting is kind of like the old nozzle you put on a garden hose, where you open up wide and it really sprays out, and then you really scope it down and say, I can reach out and touch you from here. You're in a water pipe. Okay, lighting here, where we're incorporating warm orange, yellow glow fireplace. We're also coloring the light with the lampshades here, with the torchères, with the sconces, with the ceiling in gold, or it's kind of like almost a mineral type ceiling. But it just keeps that warmth and color rendition the same. Okay, if we go in there with too white a light, we end up destroying what we're trying to accomplish in this particular situation. Now here we're dealing with a whiter light, but we're also wanting to bring out the primitive quality and character and texturization of the furniture here. Plus we're also trying to bring out the architecture in a more emphatic way. Same thing here. We need light to reveal shape and form. If we don't, then that barrel ceiling doesn't read right. Okay, and then, of course, with the other lighting we have here, and you notice, and this was done for a photograph, by the way, see how that carpeting pops in terms of texture? Well, there's a light behind here that's grazing across the surface of it, which allows, especially for revealing the photo, because unless you can go in there and experience it for yourself, we have to show it to you in pictorial format. But if we didn't do that, all of a sudden the backdrop would go darker, and some of these pieces of furniture would not read. There would not be enough contrast for you to read them right. Okay, and then obviously, you can't eat candles, sconces, up lighting. You can see how it throws cast shadows on things. By the way, this is an apartment from Mariah Carey. And I happen to know the designer that worked on this project for her. And here's another version in another part of the room. Okay, accessorization. This is a mini version of everything that came before. All that big stuff and the space planning and the furniture selection. This is where it's the same concept, but in a mini version. And so you get the personal enrichment of the spaces going on. But gosh, you need to have a selective eye, because a lot of people say, well, I like this, I like this, I like this. But sometimes in order to keep the follow through, keep it moving in the same direction, because if we're in a certain direction and pushing that way, we don't want to take a side trip, or have it start to get off trajectory, or like you're going down the road and all of a sudden your car wants to pull to the left, and it's like, I want to go straight. It's like pulling to the left. We don't want to do that, do we? So anyway, we don't want to go down the wrong road. And it's still going to be about composition, spacing, form, shape, and everything else. And I have to say this, don't fool yourself here. This is a very important part of the whole composition. This is kind of like, somebody says, Steve, I need your help putting this floor plan together and space planning. And then they say, okay, we're at the accessories, but I can handle it. It's kind of very analogous to me as a pilot, even though I'm not a pilot. I get the plane airborne, I gain altitude, I get it to 30,000 feet, and then all of a sudden, the passenger comes out and said, I'm moving over, I think I can go over from here. That means, it's on autopilot. If you can just move over here to this side seat, I think I can handle it from here. Typically, that's not going to work too well, because something happens, he's not going to be prepared, right? Plus, I think if the other passengers in the plane knew that he was doing that, I don't think they'd be happy with it. So anyway, it's just like writing too, proper punctuation and form. And so it's kind of like people, if you get people together, let's say in a conversation, or maybe they're people don't know each other. If you get them in a sense close enough for an environmental context, all of a sudden you can facilitate communication. You can facilitate some magic. You say, you did that. Well, that's so intriguing. If you get them too far apart, that magic doesn't happen. But by the same token, if you get them too tight together, the magic doesn't happen either. And so anyway, that's an important aspect. And it's about the relationships of objects to each other. How they play off each other in terms of shape and form, like curved pieces with straight pieces and different materials that help emphasize things. The accessorization phase is very much like follow-through. Now, here comes back to my golf scenario for you golfers. How many people realize that how you address the ball is critical? Okay, your stance and your club face and all that. Now, as you bring the club back, your backswing, that's important, right? Then you stop and you pause, and you start to bring it down in the forward momentum, moving your hips and your arms together. And hopefully, when you connect with the ball, your hips and your arms and your head and everything are just perfectly poised, right? And all of a sudden, ooh, you hit it in the sweet spot, and you get that magical feeling. You know, oh, what a feeling. So, but in the follow-through, okay, now, what if the guy says, the follow-through is not that important? Everything else up to that point is important, but follow-through is not that important. Well, what happens in a situation where follow-through is not important? Well, he's hooking, he's slicing, he's a lost ball in tall weeds, and one of his favorite clubs that we happen to see in his bag is, he's like, you got a new club there. Yeah, it's my weed whacker. And that's the club he uses most often because he doesn't follow through very well. So anyway, anybody see anybody with a weed whacker in their bag lately? Some people you think you need a weed whacker. Okay. So anyway, so it doesn't matter where the accessories can come from. They could be things from your travel. They could be things even found. You know, it looks kind of like a rustic, almost like a seashell type of bowl. I mean, these could come from all kinds of travels, but they tell a story. I mean, this person's going to be well-read, well-traveled, places from Peru, pre-Columbian, tennis golfer, all kinds of different things. You want to tell a complete story about you, but you also want to position correctly, like, you know, that wall is a backdrop for this. Upholstery is a backdrop for the pillows. The pillows and the upholstery are also a backdrop for the flower arrangement because as you move around the space, your viewpoint changes. Your compositional aspect changes. So again, we get back to the gyroscopic principle and about the balance of, you know, up and down and back and forth. Does that make sense to you? And then tablescapes, you know, can also tell a story and be conversation starters, quite frankly. I'm going to come back just for a minute to the sub-backdrop. Consider that we didn't have this drapery backdrop at all, and we had the same pictures on the wall. And they would look nice, but maybe wouldn't push out that ambiance, that feeling, that emotion as strongly as if we did it this way. Because this happens to wrap maybe around a certain context. And, you know, sometimes it's like you want to transport people back in time or in a different spot, different place. You know, if you've been to Hawaii, you might want to be able to, in a sense, revisit that. Another composition that's much more smaller, but look how it interfaces with the texture of the vase, the reading, the kind of worn finish on the chairs. I mean, it's just a delightful, symmetrical, balanced composition. And, you know, like I say, these could be indicative of your travels. And obviously somebody here might have traveled to Orient, as you can see, by the accessories and different furniture and rattan and whatnot. But this might be one room in a home that expounds on a big interest of them. Other areas of the room might reflect other characterizations. So you can see how much personality can go into it and how much thinking can go into it so that you get it developed to the maximum degree, or you get the maximum return on your investment. And then we've got other rooms here too where the scale of things matters, you know, and then even down to, you know, to some fairly rich, large scale tassels there. But look how nicely scaled the artwork is for the room. It has a presence, it has some bravado. But at the same token, they have to be framed appropriately with enough mass and scale. I don't know how many times I've been into places where I had to reframe artwork because the frame wasn't beefy enough to get the artwork. And so here's what happens. Tell me if this is true. You have a nice piece of artwork, take it down to a framing shop, and they said, we can use this, and this, and there's 7 frames. You say, I think of these 3 I like the best. And okay, I think I like that the best. You have it framed, you bring it home, and you put it on your wall. And then sometimes it's disjointed. In other words, it's acted like something out of context. And it doesn't work with, let's say it's a beautiful desk, but then the piece, it was great, but then the framing's off. And so it doesn't move and flow with it. And it's such an important aspect because, framing is an aspect that can be very expensive. But if you do it right, and continually moving it out there, getting better and better and better. Before I forget, when you start with the concepts and things, I remember doing a job for an architectural firm and they have 5 floors. They were on the 5th floor. They were on the 5th, 4th, and 3rd. Well, we started out with 5th because we wanted to project a certain look because they were in business and their environment had to be a silent salesperson to project what they were about. And the old place did not at all project what they were about. And so when I redid everything and designed all the moldings, everything from scratch, and the high-end look with the exotic woods and stuff was on the 5th floor. And then we had to, every time the floor dropped, guess what? The budget dropped with it. So we had 3 budget drops. So we went from exotic wood to wood that was nice, but then was cut in a certain way that looked more like exotic, all the way down to the use of plastic laminate. But one of the things that drew all of them together to have a sense of cohesiveness from 5, 4 to 3 was how we shaped, how we proportioned, how we sculpturized things, how we lit things. So that's why it's so important to understand the shape of things, or the shape of things to come. Okay, and then again, how everything is lit, from large pieces of artwork to large sculptures to a repetition or what you might call a staccato of floor arrangements to bas reliefs. And it adds a lot of dimension into a relatively clean line space. And then also for accessorization, your eye is very attentive to detail in small spaces or in small portions of rooms. Like this might be a wonderful writing desk, or maybe you read a book or contemplate or write a note, but yet, since you're so close, obviously, it's nice to have things that are more detailed in some scenarios. But just remember that when you're in close, the eye is more attentive, and so you have to be more, I guess, in the sense of precision, and just delight the eye so that they find it delight. That's why bathrooms are so fun to do. That's why entry halls are so fun to do, because they act as an introduction to what's coming next, just like a good introduction in a book. And also, this will bring about what I told you about the contrast level. The contrast level can be relatively low, or a monochromatic space like this. Not a whole lot of color, not a whole lot of pattern. Remember, I talked about most people consider color and pattern almost foremost to the exclusiveness of texture. Well, this is the reverse of it. But we've got a lot of texture here in terms of the walls, the floor, and yet does it look like a bland space? It's how it's lit. But almost all of it's all in tan tones or brown tones with a little bit of punctuation. But yeah, it's just as successful as some of the other ones that were very ornate, very involved with color and pattern and layering on of all of that. And then tablescapes, beautiful example of just something you would find. And an old kind of pharmacy lamp and some old candlesticks and some obelisks that are covered either, it could be in parchment or like goat skin, or it could be in marble, and it's just in glass and a geological specimen and a horn. Look at all the diversity of that, but yet it gives a very nice tablescape. Okay, so we're really at the conclusion of the presentation, and these are some of the principal secrets that are involved in creating an environment. I know it's probably been pretty packed with a lot of information. I hope you were able to absorb some things here. There's so much more. Every one of these little elements I could expand out to a 3-hour talk without any problem whatsoever. But if I can get you to look at your world differently and look at the places you go differently and look at it with a different level of attention to detail, and just help you to hone in on your perception of different environments, then I've done my job in this presentation. But the other aspect is that to set you up for success and to help you invest your money instead of spend it. Because it really doesn't matter really how much money you have. Most people can't afford to do it over again. So the the mode here, the game plan is do it right once the first time and then enjoy it from day one to day end. And then, look at things or maybe get help if you have to, so you don't have these errors that you have to overcome later on, because sometimes after it's done, it's almost too late to reconstruct it because what? The time might be there, but the money might not be there. And that's why I'm so much a proponent of investing people's money instead of merely spending it. So, hopefully it's been an eye-opening experience. You'll have to see things in a brand new way. And I have to say this top paragraph, it is the magic experience of ambiance. Think of romance. Think of magic. Or think of when you first met your spouse, or anything like that. It was memorable for you, the birth of a child, or I don't care what it is. If you can repeat that kind of sensory perception over and over again, life becomes that much richer and more enjoyable. Would you agree? Okay, so really it is about this intangible aspect that most people can't always put their finger on. But I have to say that who wouldn't want depth, orchestration, vitality, musicality, animation, and pure sensory enjoyment in your environment and life? That's what I'm all about, and I promote that all the time. So, again, it's my pleasure to have presented to you. Thank you for staying, for waiting an additional 50 minutes for us to start and for everybody to get well seated. And, I hope that this has enriched your life in a way and that you'll go forth from here. And I've hopefully not left you where I found you, but I brought you up to a whole different level of perception. So thank you very much for attending, and appreciate you being here.
Thank you to everyone who tuned in to the Interior Design Beat podcast. It's the podcast that's the heartbeat of Interior Design Podcast. Oh yes, when your interior design is done well, it will delight your eyes, satisfy your soul, and engage your intellect. Just remember, your environment's distinguished look and feel, plus the magic of ambiance, is what soon sets you and your home apart from any other space you've ever enjoyed. This is your host, Stephen C. Adamko, and all of my designs are personally tailored to you. The end result is an orchestration of your desired look and ambiance that you'll see, feel, understand, and experience firsthand. I present a broad range and spectrum of paid residential and commercial interior design webinars and teleseminars. Also included are seminars and workshops on location. To sign up, or if you want to know the topics or want to suggest a topic, call me today, toll free at 866-239-6520. All right, folks, have a great and wonderful day.